Well, hi guys. Didn't see you there. Welcome back to the WTL EU Week 5, Day 2. It may be corny, but I enjoyed it. Oliver Maxfield got a smile out of you as well. We're doing well. It's 2 smiles tonight. We're on a record. Next game, Virtus.Pro versus PENTA. What are your thoughts on this one? We've only seen 3 games out of Virtus.Pro thus far.
Yep.
A reschedule has obviously meant that they are 1 behind. They will catch up. They'll have a double week, a super week as it were later on. They're 2-1, sitting in 9th place right now. Yeah,
a shaky start to the season. As you mentioned, their last result was Synergy. They've only played 3 games, so we really haven't had a lot of games to kind of compare Virtus.Pro against other teams. They went 5-4 against Tornado Rocks, a very close result as well. Could have gone both ways. And of course, they started the matches with a 3-5 victory over Kazakru. That was actually an awesome match, and I think Kazakru could have won that one. They just messed up on steps. On the other hand, PENTA, some shaky stuff from them.
Yeah, really, and even over a multitude of maps, PENTA have just been inconsistent. Tonight, obviously, it's going to be Mines, and then Himmelsdorf, and Mines being our tiebreaker. We're going to go back to that one. And our Mines actually gave us probably one of my favourite matches of this season, which was actually Week 1, Virtus.Pro versus Kazakru. Really, really cool. We've now seen that evolve a little bit more in terms of the way that people are playing it. Virtus.Pro, of course, had some strong games so far. As I said, I haven't seen much from them. But their Mines play already off the bat was quite good, and we expect to have improved, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. Back and forwards between Kazakru and Virtus.Pro and Mines. I think Mines suits Virtus.Pro. Not overly aggressive. They've got a lot of experience on it. They've been in some serious tournaments on this match. I mean, the Grand Finals, for instance, they've been playing back and forwards on this map for many seasons, before it was removed from the map pool, and overall showed some good results. It's a small map, it's dynamic, it does rely on player skill in many respects, and it relies on having good team coordination in those kind of very instinctual and very high pressure situations, which I think Virtus.Pro has.
Now, definitely a sore spot, I'm sure, for Virtus.Pro and their fans, but the last time they played, pretty disappointing from them. They went down 5-1 to Synergy. They sort of claim that they just got completely outplayed, like they outstratted. What's your opinion on that game and the way that played out? Definitely didn't seem like the Virtus.Pro we're used to seeing.
See, that's the thing. I mean, obviously they said, Synergy, some very aggressive positioning from them, some very good tactics from them, outplayed Virtus.Pro. I don't know. I think Synergy have a lot of weaknesses. I mean, they're getting against Tornado Rocks, 5-4 loss for them. It shows that, Synergy have plenty to work on, and I just think Virtus.Pro gave that game to Synergy. I think they just didn't play up to their normal level on that day, and I think if they played their normal level, it would have been a 5-2, maybe a 5-3 if Synergy were lucky. Would have been a completely different result. I think Virtus.Pro were overly aggressive, overconfident, and they paid for it.
Melly, we've seen these two teams go head-to-head for quite some seasons now. Virtus.Pro has been around since, well, forever. What are your thoughts on this one? Is it really going to be a mismatch, or do you think after Virtus.Pro's last result and did PENTA have a chance?
No, I think they will be very furious about what happened last time. So it's going to be tough for PENTA. And it's after what we've seen last week, I don't think that it's like that Virtus.Pro is absolutely unbeatable, but PENTA is a good team though, and if they pull themselves together, we will have a very exciting party, in my opinion. And well, the community is pretty much on Virtus.Pro's side, of course, with over 80%. Yeah,
so it's 80% vote in favour of Virtus.Pro. To be fair, we're used to seeing it a bit higher, but I digress. Let's jump right in now to Mines.
Mines, a small summertime map with lots of hills, rocks and other cover. The teams start the battle in the usual locations. But the base locations are different. One is located in the bottom part of the village, and the other one is in the water. The key directions here are the hill and the island. That's why the teams will often select fast vehicles and tanks with strong turrets.
Both of these teams have been very shaky in the past, but what are we seeing, Ollie, right off the bat?
So a very aggressive Virtus.Pro, and I think this is going to be a middle brawl.
Wow, it's going to get really messy very early on. Just Cause is actually bearing the brunt of that, and so is Coca-Cola. Virtus.Pro have walked into a bit of a crossfire, and two of the tanks are going quite low, but they have a chance now to respond, and they are doing that with alacrity. The dead zone takes 880 damage off him. Getting very, very low now, and Karit's off to the side. You can see him in that T21 still doing work. The first tank to drop is a T54, of course, of Kusok. He's already out, and now he can focus a little bit more on cooling with Karit. But this is messy. I mean, Virtus.Pro have taken the hill instantly, but Penta knew that almost, and they were happy to challenge them.
The thing is, Virtus.Pro got into a better position on the hill before Penta, and that's obviously because of the differences between the spawns in the north of the map and the south of the map. Penta knew they couldn't go forwards, and now Virtus.Pro have the higher ground. They can slow the map down. They can bring it back into their pace. It Just Cause dispatches nicely of Hacky.
Hacky just got destroyed there as well, and you can see Fluky actually in that M41 Bulldog. Virtus.Pro undoubtedly won that engagement, and it seems like Killerpit and Fluky are overestimating the protection that rock's going to give them. Just Cause goes for a bit of a drive-by, and while Fluky's already getting hammered by Karit, it's going to be the finish by Bishop, and now Killerpit all on his own behind that rock, and you can obviously see toward the northern side of the map, those two 54s are mobilizing. New Multi-Show, one of the top players for Penta Sports, and messages there as well. But is this too little, too late?
This is way too little, too late. It depends, you know, if New Multi-Show can bring out his first real good performance in a very long time, but the dead zone alone.
Getting completely pushed on towards there as well. Messi does take down Just Cause, but goes down himself very, very quickly. We see this time and time again from New Multi-Show, and he's often on his own. He's always sort of bringing up the second wave of attack, and the poor guy has to deal with this kind of thing on a fairly regular basis, enough to frustrate you, no doubt. The Virtus.Pro are going to come out on top here with more than 2,000 hit points, and that's a considerable margin, considering that no one's bringing IS-3s in there. There were just 54 lightweights, essentially, and Virtus.Pro coming out with, you know, almost 2 full tanks in the lead. They did take a bit of damage there. Can Penta afford to challenge the hill like that? We often say defending sides need to just... They can't get to the hill as fast. It's just the way the map's made. Should they really pander to that and just avoid trying to fight like that? Or is there another way?
That's always Penta style, though. There have always been really aggressive on mines on the defensive side. I mean, so many T54s is Penta's, you know, unique way of playing this map, and I think Virtus.Pro counter-stratted it perfectly. If they'd gone for something slower, the FV304, I think it would have been a different story. But they went for the faster tanks. They knew they could get the better positions.
Super aggressive.
They knew they could get hull down as well, and they just played Penta at their own game. And I have to say again, I said this last time Penta played against, I think, Kajna Crew. You know, they should just maybe think about ditching those, you know, heavily stacked T54 lineups and you go for something more standard, like, you know, a couple of IS-3s there set up to actually deal with that hill push with a couple of big volleys from the IS-3 and bring the HP in their favor that way.
You've definitely been a big proponent of using those IS-3s here on mines, but here's that first push, and this is where already Penta found themselves out of the game after a while.
I think a lot of the players from Penta are just looking the wrong direction. I mean, Coca-Cola was the first target for Fluky, Hacky, and Killerpit, but New Multi-Show message in the dead zone, they would have had to reload to take down Coca-Cola. Instead, Kusok falls, and that provides cover for Breakneck to basically just pester the rest of the tanks there. And by that time, Virtus.Pro have the better positions. Very aggressive movements from them. They can just shoot down. Raging Potato also goes down because he had nowhere to go. If he went backwards, he would have got shot by the tanks on hill. If he went forwards, he would have got shot by that T21. So, yeah. Very hard game for Penta there. I think, you know, they should have expected that Virtus.Pro would play them at their own game. Literally
nowhere to go. In fact, they were stuck behind a rock, and this is the best place to use between a rock and a hard place, because that's pretty much the way it went out. You can see Penta had 3 tanks kind of wedged up in behind this rock, but by this point they had already lost almost. You can see now it's a Bulldog that's super low. Those 54 lightweights are so out of position. I mean, couldn't they have been better used in like the initial hill fight? Maybe could Penta have just put their whole force there and hope to create some sort of overmatch?
For sure, but you've got to remember as well that the T54s on just the lower part of the hill would have just been able to flank around and basically make some real good damage. And all Virtus.Pro would have had to do, sit on that hill, keep those tanks at bay, and then their tanks from behind would have been able to take care of them very easily. So the thing is, I think, you know, I agree, it was kind of a weird mesh between the really aggressive move on the hill and also, you know, the double IS-3, the IS-3 stacks we see more towards the lower side. So now, you know, Penta need to bring out something which is a little bit more standard, and they seem to have done that with the MX-1390 and the IS-3.
They have brought one, at least, so that's something here. And yet again, Virtus.Pro, as you might expect, are pushing up towards that hill. And maybe Penta, you know, just dispensing off that more aggressive strategy, now going to something a little bit more arguably default here as they allow Virtus.Pro to take the hill and they set up towards that southwest.
Yeah, so Virtus.Pro has the hill. That's not unexpected. I mean, PENTA have gone for the IS-3. They didn't even challenge the hill with a quick shot from the IS-3s because it's only one. There's no point. You know, if you're going to do any damage, you need a couple of them. And then, you know, the rest of the PENTA just sitting up around towards the western side. Maybe PENTA deciding, you know, we need to be aggressive. You know, they got the AMX 3090 and a T37. They can play around towards the western side. They can use that lighthouse island. And Virtus.Pro kind of doing a Supreme-esque positioning play where they just have every single angle of that middle island area, that middle hill area just covered. They can spot the whole map and then they can decide where they want to go.
Super defensive setup from PENTA here. Look at them all sitting back and they are definitely concerned about Virtus.Pro's position up on the hill. Fluky will take a hit for his trouble. Always seems to be one of the first guys copying a shot. And the Raging Potato in the IS-3 is the only tank for PENTA pushed up against that hill. I guess PENTA are hoping that Virtus.Pro is going to try and roll over and go for that IS-3, take the bait as it were. But they're not in the best positions themselves right now. I mean, everyone's sort of looking in some different directions. The Dead Zone and Message are definitely trained up on towards that hill. And of course, we're seeing PENTA persisting with that Bulldog here as well.
Yeah, so PENTA's basically saying to Virtus.Pro, just come at us, go forwards, try something, and we're just going to be ready and waiting. A little surprised that PENTA didn't go for a T32 if they want to go for this tactic, because that's the normal style. Put a T32 where the dead zone is. You have a great hold-down tank. You have a tank that can actually stay in one position and, you know, provide a lot of pestilence and a lot of firepower towards that hill and that eastern side. Virtus.Pro, on the other hand, also going to the eastern side with the T54 stack. And again, you know, on the attacking side, Virtus.Pro has been a little bit questionable on mines. I think that was their weaker game against Krasnokru. But when they just go for it, when they decide for a position and just go for it, like they are setting up indeed the same setup they did against Krasnokru, coming off the hill, pushing the eastern side, it does generally go quite well for them.
This is going to be very, very interesting, and I'm interested to see what PENTA decide to do with that IS-3 in any event. Kusok took a hit there up on top of the hill, and he will just back up a little bit and let the rest of his team move up. And you can see this is the strike force, the spearhead. This is Virtus.Pro. The Might of Mother Russia pouring on in towards PENTA Sports now. Let's see what they can do with this. It's going to be a bit of a head-to-head here. The Dead Zone's a little bit caught out. We've seen tanks in his position definitely be isolated and get taken down before the rest of his team can respond with the shots are coming across, and this could be messy. Bishop takes a hit. Breakneck also takes one. And the Dead Zone is just trying to back away behind the rock and just get on down the hill, but there are tanks up on the hill. He's still in danger at this stage. The Raging Potato is trying to help out, and it's a firefight back and forth. It's really hard to put out a clear front runner here. Virtus.Pro are just going to try and set up here and just grind it out by the looks.
So we got the reaction from PENTA. They're basically just trying to keep the Dead Zone alive. They don't manage to do that, but Just Cause is on his own in that T54.
Not bad. They might be able to get the overmatch on towards Just Cause, and he is just going to get chunked on down. He will drop, so PENTA be able to trade 1-for-1 here, and the health points are still in the balance. Coca-Cola thinking about coming over the top. Povel takes a hit, sends one back in response. And Haki is also chipping in with that T37, but Karitz and Kusok, they're still on the hill. PENTA Sports have put themselves in a difficult position. They've got to use those buildings as much as they can for their own protection. But Raging Potato is still alive. He might be really important later on. Coca-Cola, low. We just see Fluky drop down, and Bishop is also low. But Karitz is doing so much work right now. And he manages to take down yet another tank in that T21. It's a 4v2. New Multi-Show and Raging Potato. They've got to hold up against this force of Virtus.Pro, and I think they've just run out of friends.
Yeah, they just run out of everything. New Multi-Show's on reload. It doesn't have any shells left. 363 hit points left on that AMX 3090 as usual. You know, the last man remaining. And it will be game over for PENTA.
This is interesting. The way this map has played out is quite interesting. It's not standard, as you would expect. We've seen two quite different to each other and different to the rest of the halves we've seen, of course, for PENTA on this map. We saw Virtus.Pro amass their entire force towards the east side. Now, this isn't really common. We might see a couple lightweights or maybe even a T37 or something smaller like that to just raise some interest. But this is the group up here. Have you seen this before? And what are your thoughts about the effectiveness or potentially this strat?
It's exactly the same strat Virtus.Pro used against Krasnokru. They just pushed off the eastern side, but the only real nuance is the fact that Virtus.Pro kept a couple of tanks on the hill. I think it's a good strat. I mean, they get the dead zone down very quickly, and then PENTA Sports overreact overcommit to Just Cause, and then they're stuck between Karitz, Kusok, and then the rest of Virtus.Pro. I think if they just committed onto this group of Virtus.Pro T54s, they would have stayed safe from Karitz and Kusok, and at the same time got the overmatch. So I don't know. I think some mistakes from Penta, some overcommittal, and not doing enough damage in this initial engagement.
This is interesting. So you saw the dead zone. He had to back away, and in that position, he was potentially vulnerable to the guys that Virtus.Pro left on this hill. And I like this as a tweak to their strategy. I like what they've done here because they're going to punish Penta for committing. We did eventually see them all try and jump onto, I think, Just Cause, or maybe Breakneck near one of the lightweights. So they literally sent their whole force over to deal with him, and this is kind of what resulted. They were all split all over the place. You see where New Multi-Show is where Penta all pushed into just prior to deal with that tank. So, you know, it's almost like dangling a bit of bait in front of their faces. Moving there, obviously, it caused them to become not only vulnerable to the tanks that they were initially dealing with, because Coca-Cola and Pavel, but also, of course, Kusok and Karitz up on the hill. Karitz did some serious work. That T21's got a great rate of fire. Penta, it looks like they were just being pulled around the map at Virtus.Pro's volition. Exactly.
They were just not being able to commit to too much. I think the one-on-one exchange was great from Penta there. But again, I think Hacky went for it. Hacky went for the peak to try and take those T54s low. Then you saw, I think, Killerpit go for the peak as well, trying to take those T54s low. And then you had the New Multi-Show on the bottom for some reason, some other T54s on the bottom for some reason. Raging Potato, you know, the only one really with an excuse in the IS3 was keeping the flank safe, making sure he keeps pressure onto Kusok and Karitz and T37 and the T54. But again, I think Penta should have just gone for it because it would have never worked anyway. It might have not worked, I mean, if they did go for it, but it wouldn't have worked if they're just sitting in between, you know, both these two forces of Virtus.Pro.
That's exactly right. So it's definitely well executed, I like to think, from Virtus.Pro there. And of course, Melly, Penta, you know, have some fans. You know, they're one of the few teams that can bring a Virtus.Pro vote to under 90%. But this has got to be a rough start for them. Not only Virtus.Pro won the first 2 rounds, but they're attacking rounds, and now they get to sit back on defense.
That's true. I mean, 74% for Virtus.Pro is quite low. Well, but it happened quite often in the past match days, if we look back, actually. So it seems like we've broken the always over 90% rule for Virtus.Pro. But yeah, it looks quite bad for Penta at this point. But the map change, well, the change of sides. Let's see if it brings something new. And people, if you know better, head over to Twitter and use the hashtag WGLEU to tell us so. And maybe we will show you a tweet, maybe we'll read it out. Or maybe you have a question to our experts. And of course, the top tweets of the day will be rewarded as well. So we're rewarding 3 tweets of the day with bonus codes. So keep on tweeting.
All right. Well, obviously we're looking forward. We're looking out for you guys to get involved. Just as
have a mouse mat this time or a poster, but you know, some bonus codes will do.
That's true. That's true. We're going to try and keep the swag coming for you guys, though. We do appreciate you joining us here as well. So, all right. As Melly said, things are changing up now. We're going to see Penta go on the attack. If their first half on defense is to anything to go by, it looks like they'll be fairly happy to be aggressive in this scenario. Now, you said you don't really like that they were sort of going for the lightweights. They've changed that now. What has to change now on the attacking side for Penta?
Well, they didn't really go for anything else apart from the lightweights. I mean, they went for 1 IS3. It's not a big deal. I mean, two IS3s, they could have actually contested the hill against Kusok, but...
What now, though?
They didn't. I mean, they've gone for the full T54 stack. Again, you know, Penta, super aggressive, over-aggressive on both attack and defense, at least in the matches we've seen them play on Mines.
All right, well, only 1 hit taken by Penta as they get up into the hill, and that's pretty good, to be honest. That's not too bad. But do bear in mind that Virtus.Pro are toting 3 IS3s, and that's going to give them that health point advantage inherently. You see Karitz here. What's he up to?
I think he's just trying to get in that position we saw yesterday from Ding. You know, I think Mieloff was playing this position. It's quite safe. You can't get shot from the hill. You can get proxy spots on tanks that are pushing. But the IS3s of Virtus.Pro just challenging for that hill.
Well, they're going to try and take it here. And all in IS3s, I don't really blame them. There is an arty shot coming in from Killerpit, but it's really... it's going to be shrugged off there by Just Cause. New Multi-Show is pushed off the hill. In fact, those 354 lightweights who initially took the hill have also pushed off. Virtus.Pro now with a chance to respond, but how will they do it? They're definitely looking down the barrel at New Multi-Show. One of the first few times that the Polish superstar is going to be taken down first before his teammates, but it will happen regardless. Coca-Cola went low in that engagement, it's important to point out. And Karitz actually was in that position, but he did drop down as the aggressive 54 lightweights of PENTA are mobilizing. And both of these teams have essentially swapped sides.
I really like this from PENTA. You know, one of Virtus.Pro's weaknesses on mine is that they don't react very quickly. You know, once they get a bit of pressure on them, you know, some tactic happens from the other team. They struggle to really have a good idea of what the other team's going to do and what they should do to counter that one. So this is good. This is going good for PENTA. They're not winning the hit points battle. Virtus.Pro still have the hill, but again, you know, Virtus.Pro, they don't seem to really know what to do with that hill, and that doesn't work out for them.
Oh, Killer Pit, they're going to lose him. Povell actually wasn't able to finish him off with that shot, but it did track him, and he will be able to get the second shot in easily enough. One of the downsides, of course, of PENTA using their mobile tank composition, of course, to leave their artillery behind, but we'll have to see if they can make up for that. Do still have 5 pieces on the battlefield, and Hacky is just tantalizing right now, sitting on that capture site, base number 2, as you can see on your screen, and he might be forcing a move out of Virtus.Pro soon. You can see Just Cause has moved up tentatively, step by step, or at least radian by radian if you're talking about wheels here. He's getting close, and he did manage to get a shot towards Fluky. Those IS-3s of Virtus.Pro are also getting antsy.
So you just say radiant by radiant.
Yeah. Well, it's not step by step, it's a tank, man.
Fair enough. But I think Virtus.Pro, you know, they work very well when they're in unison. I think they need to be aggressive. They need to push off that hill. They need to go hard down with those IS-3s, and they just need to go for it. They need to find a weakness and exploit it.
All right, well, Virtus.Pro have an inherent advantage. Again, in health points, they are still looking good, and Hacky, as you can see, is no longer on that capture point. He's been scared off that a little bit, and this is going to be really interesting. Now, PENTA have to fight battles on multiple fronts here, and you can see the shots coming into this cluster of 3 tanks. It's not just Breakneck and Just Cause doing the work, it's also Bishop from behind, and Coca-Cola is also in a spot to get some shots down. Bishop gets the finish on towards the dead zone. Now, Fluky and Raging Potato are left on their own. They push out now. This could be very dangerous, especially if the Raging Potato is going to miss shots like that one, and Just Cause is going to make Fluky pay. Breakneck is also going to bring his own brand of retribution, and PENTA are running out of what? They ran out of health. That happened really quickly, actually. Virtus.Pro, 3,000 point lead to them. That was pretty decisive.
Yeah, pretty one-sided from Virtus.Pro. Again, once they executed, once they went for it, they did very well. I think at the beginning and to the middle area of the match, I think it was, you know, back and forwards. I think Virtus.Pro were a little bit lost for words. They didn't really know what to do. They had the hill again. But, you know, I think it's kind of strange. You know, Virtus.Pro have done exactly the same thing they did against Kazakru on the attack, and exactly the same thing they did against Kazakru on the defense. And yet PENTA haven't got any answer. The way Kazna beat that tactic just then was they just played circles around Virtus.Pro. They used the fact that those IS-3s were pushing up the hill to their advantage, used the fact that they're slow. You know, once on the hill, what does the IS-3 do? He doesn't have any gun depression to play around with. Did some damage to them when they're going on the hill as well. And then just played Ring of Roses. PENTA, on the other hand, they went super aggressive in the south. The Virtus.Pro's like, hey, okay, fair enough. We're going to keep a couple of tanks up there. Then we're going to push down. We're going to use the IS-3s, and we're going to win those exchanges with the T-54s every day of the week. I
like how you point out Kazna flanking Virtus.Pro and using their mobility, because the clip we've got here shows PENTA being flanked themselves. The supposedly mobile team is being flanked by 2 IS-3s, not mobile tanks. They let themselves get into this position. They've got no one to blame but themselves. They were supposed to be dictating the flow of this game with their extreme mobility, and yet Virtus.Pro are telling him exactly what to do.
I think what they should have done is not gone all the way to the south. I think they should just flanked around that southern hill area, pushed on the hill, and just engaged on the IS-3s on the hill. Just make the peak shots, continuously do damage, use the FE304, which they had as well, to basically pester those IS-3s, and, you know, have the angles that if the IS-3s do commit, they do go for it, you're going to be able to do damage for days. And I think that would have been game over for Virtus.Pro, but, you know, PENTA just let them come at them, and that's never a good thing. So very decisive round from Virtus. Mistakes, and I think a couple of bad decisions from PENTA cost them that round, but I'm kind of surprised they lasted for that long as well.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit of a do-si-do, a little bit of a swap there for both teams, and like you pointed out, it was that Virtus.Pro, they were quite happy to sit back. PENTA has kind of swapped sides, and then we're like, oh god, what has just happened right now? Why are we on this side of the map? I don't know what to do. So, like, they can't phone a friend. They can't get 50-50 on the crowd vote. You know what I mean?
No
they
lifeline.
Exactly, no lifeline. That's a great way to put it. And they didn't know how to react there as well. And we're finding that the difference between good teams and great teams is exactly that.
Yeah.
The game state of World of Tanks is prone to change at any moment. One tank goes down, one tank is out of position, and bam, nothing is the way you planned it initially. You know what I mean? And this is what PENTA has to be able to react. They need to So your first roll out, right? You move out with your tanks, you get some spots you know where the enemy are.
Yep.
You can't expect them to be there 20 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes later. Penta swapped sides, they had no information. It's like a reset on information, and then they still weren't able to gather any, and they just froze. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I think, the only other element we're not mentioning is the fact that the T-54 was all in that Western cap. And, that Western cap with the one tank, 120 seconds. It's just too long. Talking about 2 whole minutes to actually cap. And, on a map like mine's, very small, you can get from the other side of the map, from the north to south, in a mouse in 2 minutes. So, very easy to get the reset.
Now, a bit of adaptation here for Penta. They've taken the double LTTB, and yet again, they get up the hill, and only Killapit really bearing the brunt of some of those shots, and that's not really going to be the be-all and end-all right now for Penta. Again, Virtus.Pro have up to 9k health just to start with. Have a look at this, though. Looks like they might even be mobilizing here. You can see them pushing up towards the hill. Povl takes a shot in the side from one of the LTTBs, but he's going to swat that away, and he's going to continue to move up with the rest of his team, and this is undoubtedly going to force Penta to move off the hill. Povl will split off and try and deal with Fluky. He's going to need to team up with Hacky if he wants to stay alive here.
Ooh, really too quick there from Fluky. You have to wait until the tank is in a position that it can actually shoot you before you come off the hill. You're trying to play for every single second. Now, Penta's done this one before, at least from the attacking side. Now they're trying it from the defense.
All right, now Penta have done pretty much a full circle around that hill, looking for Povl, but shots are coming in. New Show on the dead side have made themselves a little bit vulnerable here, but still, Penta had the chance to get shots coming from 2 angles, and even Fluky can contribute from the back there. But again, this rock is only going to offer a modicum of protection to Penta, especially with Kariks lurking around the side in that T-37. Penta, I don't know if they can really stand up to a head-on... No, and I know they can't stand up to a head-to-head engagement here, especially with 2 IS-3s barreling down the hill, and Kusok as well. He's going to be slugging his way down. Additionally, now look at this. It's just going to be a mess. Virtus.Pro sprung the trap. This is kind of working out for them right now. And those 354s are just going to have to hold on. There's a bit of support coming from Killapit in the back, and same with Hacker, but they've got to focus fire right now. Penta has split their forces into 3 units, especially... Fluky manages to get Karitz, but it's starting to look pretty grim.
I can't believe Breakneck actually got that shot onto the dead zone. That was great play by him. I don't know. I think Penta are doing okay here. They can still win this one. But Breakneck obviously wins that 1 versus 1, and Fluky needs to get in this game.
Fluky has definitely been a non-issue thus far. He's getting some shots in from behind, but Breakneck is going to go straight towards him. Maybe if Fluky can keep him busy for long enough, he might be okay here. It is a faster tank than the IS-3, but he's going to barrel around that rock, and Message has 3 tanks to deal with right now, and he's doing okay, to be fair. He's still hanging on there. He still has, well, not really actually, he has 155 health left. The mod a little bit slow to update there. But Penta, again, they're going to limp away from this one, not having won a round yet at all on mines. That's got to hurt.
Yeah, 4-0 scoreline in favor of Virtus.Pro, drastically in favor of Virtus.Pro. Both defensive rounds, both attacking rounds, obviously going in their favor. Now, I think that last round is a testament to the IS-3. Even in a situation where T-54s are being utilized to the max, flanking around, being fast, coming off the hill, getting the jump on Virtus.Pro from behind, and being a good situation generally, once Virtus.Pro engages. First of all, Virtus.Pro is great in terms of the the firefighting ability. Shout out to Breakneck for actually winning that 2 versus 1. But they just don't have the damage. They don't have the firepower. The T-54s are doing 250 average damage. The IS-3 does a massive 390. You have a situation where if you can focus fire 3 IS-3s, you can cancel out a T-54 in 3 shots.
That's right, in a matter of seconds, literally. So. It's tough for Penta to be. They got off the hook, to be honest, when they went up to the hill for the 2nd time in a row. Only taking a couple of hits there, really, they could have dealt with that. But they're already at a health point deficit. Yeah. They're trying to make these fights head-to-head with 3 IS-3s. And speaking of IS-3s, this clip is going to show them pretty much how they were used by Virtus.Pro. They just came barreling down the hill here, and this is where things started to get ugly for Penta. This is the
Penta setup they wanted. They wanted to catch the IS-3s as they went down the hill. The dead zone, the star player from Penta by far, it took a season for him to get into his stride, but he's the top damage dealer for their team, actually comes into his own. I think, that 1 versus 1 against the T-37, Fluky has to take care of him. And, Breakneck versus Raging Potato, it just doesn't go well for them. Raging Potato goes back too far. He allows Breakneck to get the shot. And obviously, it's an easy game for Breakneck there. 2 versus 1, a massive deal for him. And then it's already game over. 4 versus 2 with the IS-3 still in the game for Virtus.Pro. Just coming off that hill. They got a whiff of what Penta wanted to do, and they sprung their trap, and they still won.
I've got to say, if we watch the clip, I really like Bishop. I really like the way he plays. I've liked him for quite some time. He's one of the top damage dealers for Virtus.Pro. Really softly spoken guy, but you can see his mind was really ticking over there. He was shooting, obviously, towards that center rock just to help out, I think, one of the other IS-3s. And then straight away, he's already looking at the T-54s. As soon as he's reloaded, he's on top of that one as well. Super, super, super impressive stuff there. And that was obviously where it fell apart for PENTA. Not good news, of course, for PENTA. Obviously, pretty much everyone's favourite team in terms of the personalities, at least Melly, but definitely not the performance that they would have been looking for tonight.
Absolutely not, no. And the vote is 80% in favour of Team Virtus.Pro. People, if you haven't voted yet, the vote is still open and will be closed right before we head into the second match. And if I look on the entries, pretty much everyone was expecting a pretty closer party. So I think a 4-0 ending, no one has predicted yet. I mean, of course, not 4-0 is not a sufficient ending for a match. It's best of 9. Don't get that wrong now. But if I look through, so people, if you hand in your votes yet, you might have a chance to win. I haven't gone, of course, through all votings, but the majority of the voting people were expecting something very close, which we're not getting, as it seems.
No.
But the second map, how a chance for PENTA there?
I think Virtus.Pro wanted to play Himmelsdorf because they did so badly against Synergy. PENTA chose Mines because they thought they could exploit some of the weaknesses of Virtus.Pro's team in this season. So I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think Virtus.Pro has a point to prove, and I think PENTA is still looking for, you know, a way into the season, and I hope they find it.
Absolutely. Now, Melly, before we go to a break,
we have to have a
throwback. We have to have a throwback to last Tuesday.
Yes.
I was sitting back at my desk cackling. You guys were fantastic getting involved with the photoshops and stuff like that. We do have a winner to announce as well before we go.
Exactly. But yes, last Tuesday, something very nice happened. The whole community gathered and made Ollie a synchronized swimmer.
Made pictures of me. The whole community gathered and made
it was
pictures of me. I think is how we can summarize that one.
Photoshopping Ollie's face onto synchronized swimmers.
Brilliant.
And if you want to watch back what was submitted,
#WGLU, you can just go through the whole feed.
You're so good at your job.
You can do social media as well. I can
we should switch sometime.
Just, yeah, I mean, I would be
the
up for that one.
analysis can't
Sometimes I think she'd do better job of analysis, to be honest, mate. Brilliant. I'm just putting it out there. But
let's jump to the winner that win the Razer Wall of Tanks edition mouse mat, Goliathus, actually, which also has a bonus code. And
brilliant.
Well, the committee.
Miggy did a great job with Lauren. Not so much with me and you, I gotta say, Melly.
Well, I like the blending. It looks like you look like you've just had your hair dyed, like you've just got the foils out of your hair.
Teeth removed.
And about half my head removed as well.
I like it though. You've got that little you got the jazz hands out.
You're just emerging from the water.
Yeah, it's okay. Like you can't look your best when you're.
I think Lauren would be a great synchronized swimmer though.
She's looking like she's having fun. Melly's just, over the shoulder, and she's obviously doing this as well. Everyone's doing that at the same time. It's important to know. Yeah. But you look like you've just had the falls out of your hair at the hairdresser, like when they dye it.
Yeah.
No, you going for the blonde streaks again, mate. We're going to relive the 90s a bit.
Yeah,
only the tips.
Got to get the frosted tips. Paul Shannon style.
Yeah, and
then like tons of gel. So yeah, congratulations. He not only did submit this one, but also plenty more. So people, as Ollie said, search for the #WGLEU to watch back what awesome submissions we had, and there were so many good ones. And Mitch prepared another one. This is one of my favorites. So yeah.
Match, put this one up on screen for everyone as well. This is one of the other ones. Now, to be fair, who makes this face when doing synchronized screening? First of all, to be fair,
I didn't even realize it was my face for a long time.
It's brilliant. Is she supposed to pull that, or she's supposed to pull that face? And
dude, the face is
something to do with
there's definitely a Reddit subreddit just for synchronized swimming faces. I'm 100% sure, because they're absolutely brilliant when you catch them mid.
That looks like you last week.
They're so far away, right in the water. They have to overact, don't they?
Maybe. Just like me.
It's just when they come up for air.
Just like Mitch, exactly.
Gonna overact people. That's it.
So people, if you have any synchronized swimmer Photoshop art pieces left, send them our way by using the #WGLEU. The winner has been announced. The winner of the bonus codes, I promised 5 bonus codes as well, will be announced soonish, tomorrow I guess, hopefully when the gods of the mighty internet work with us. And people, Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after a short break. You still have time to vote, so head over to facebook.com/WGLEU and submit your vote, and then we will be back.
Yes, ladies and gents, welcome back to the WGL EU Week 5, Day 2, into our second match in it. Oliver, may well be a short one from here on out.
Yeah, 4-0 scoreline right now for Virtus.Pro, just coming out of Mines. Won both attacking rounds, won both defensive rounds. Not really that close for PENTA. They didn't really get close to Virtus.Pro. I think every single round was pretty decisive. There was a couple of moments when I thought PENTA could take it. But moving on to Himmelsdorf, I don't know. I think Virtus.Pro, typically this has been their stomping grounds. They've beaten, for instance, Na'Vi on this map.
They really have. Well, man, it's time to check it out. Let's have a look and see what Himmelsdorf holds.
Himmelsdorf, a small city map. The teams start the battle in opposite corners. Both bases are located close to each other, but in a way that you can't stay on the defensive all the time. The main attack routes pass through the hill, the alley and the railroad. Heavy tanks with powerful guns run the show here. However, much depends on the light tanks. Usually they go for the base capture.
Okay, PENTA with their last chance here, they must win this round. And Virtus.Pro, they got a lot to say about this after dropping down a synergy. Have a look at this, PENTA rolling out with 2 Waffle Tigers.
Weird. I mean, double Waffle Tiger, I don't think we've ever seen that lineup before. I mean, of course, Messig, one of the forerunners for the Waffle Tiger, and as you know, when he was playing in Drooling Leprechauns, was an absolute beast. But 2 of them is very strange indeed. Let's see how this one works out. Of course, a lot of alpha damage, 750 per shell. You can rip through an IS-3 with just 2 shells and obviously turn it into scrap metal. But for Virtus.Pro, at least they're sticking to what they know, a mixture of IS-3s and 5100s.
And they are pouring down the hill in numbers. That's right, Virtus.Pro are on the march, and they're going straight towards the base of PENTA Sports. And as we've spoken about this, we've seen this, the new Himmelsdorf does make it accessible for attacks to go for that northern cap and just sit up around on that A6, A7 line. But for the most part, Virtus.Pro seem to be moving as a unit, making their way down, and those Vorsigs aren't going to see a heck of a lot for the moment here. They were maybe hoping to see some movements down the 8 line, but that's not where Virtus.Pro are going. And look, bit of a traffic jam here. Coca-Cola gets tracked up not once, but twice. And all of Virtus.Pro just stopping for a moment, kind of gather themselves a bit and see where they go next. 2
shots from New Motley Show, 2 tracking shots, and Coca-Cola even managed to get a shot off into New Motley Show there, 394 damage. You know, that's why you take the IS-3. It's a bit of an awkward one to penetrate. But anyway, Virtus.Pro, you know, against Synergy, they were really erratic, strange movements, sometimes a little bit passive, sometimes too aggressive. And PENTA, you know, they've had a decent track record, you know, for instance, against ASAP 2-2. Utopia was a bit shaky for them. But technically, I preferred the way PENTA have played this map compared to Virtus.Pro. But this is a good start for Virtus. They're doing what they do best, being aggressive, not letting the other team have any breathing room.
We've seen Hacky drop down early, and Fluking Killerpit forced to do a bit of fancy footwork to get away from the shots that were zooming over their heads right now. And they can take up position here, at least on this D-line, and keep an eye on Virtus.Pro's movements here. Already a 1,500 hit point lead, of course. Taking 2 Waffentragers is not exactly going to bolster your total hit points much. Only 1,100 hit points per tank. You can see here, they're just working on parallels at the moment. Virtus.Pro going from south to north here up this 7 line, or the 6 line. Going to make their way towards the cap, and they'll probably just slip on there for a second. See, Kusok won't go too much further than that corner. Well, he does actually, interestingly enough, and gets hit by Messig now, but they're going to go for the overmatch immediately on towards that IS-3. Virtus.Pro have read this well, and they can tell that PENTA are a little bit splintered right now, but here come the Borsigs. They're doing some work, and oh, there it is! That IS-3 gets double tapped down, and that's exactly what we're waiting to see from these Borsigs. And for the most part, the Dead Zone, Rage and Potato have avoided any sort of retribution in terms of damage. They'll be able to come up for another shot. This could be scary. Breakneck might be in trouble.
They're definitely in trouble. Breakneck's down and out, so is Cusack.
Oh!
Those Borsigs are just absolute beasts. I mean, seriously, they just 2-shot the IS-3, and Virtus.Pro now down 4 tanks, and PENTA have only lost 1.
The Dead Zone is going to move up for yet another shot. The Killer Pit as well going towards Povel. I mean, it's going to be pretty straightforward here. PENTA just turned that around on his head. I don't know why they pushed around the corner so much. Normally, they'd have some tanks in this position where Killer Pit is at least in another position where they can get some sort of crossfire, but no, it's not to be. And Rage Potato again bringing the Borsig gun to bear on towards Bishop. Karit's always chipping in, always, you know, always working hard for the 1%ers here, but he's got a lot of tanks to deal with, and he's just going to have to get the heck out of Dodge and give his team some time to decide what the next move is going to be, because they just got decimated by PENTA.
The next move, the next round, they just got obliterated. Those 2 Borsigs really working wonders. I think if we're going to look at it, PENTA knew roughly what Virtus.Pro would be doing. They knew that they'd be going super aggressively overly aggressive, and it worked out really well for them. You can see Rage
Lord,
hitting almost 2.4k damage. That's almost. That's getting on to two tier 8 tanks. Incredible stuff for them, and as you said, 4k between them. That's
two tier 8s, mate.
That's basically, yeah. With just one tank, it's not quite 2 tier 8s. With 2 of them, it's over 2 tier 8s. So great stuff from them. But I don't know. I think Virtus.Pro a little bit obvious, a little bit too aggressive, and it didn't work out.
No, Karisa's just going to back away here. No chance for any sort of synchronized swimming, unfortunately. He either takes a long drop down. We have those back in Australia. They're not pleasant. Or he can just head right around the backside. And this is strat time, really, for Virtus.Pro. They're thinking, they're talking, because, you know, after a move like this, PENTA have definitely brought out the big guns here and gone for something really different. And Virtus.Pro have definitely got to be thinking about this now and think about how they're going to deal with it. Oh, Creeds might get a cheeky kill on the Fluky if he's lucky with the penetrations. No, the multi-show is there, and he will get the kill towards Kariz, and that is what we're waiting to see from PENTA Sports. Something a bit different, something a bit special, and it's even better when those special strategies actually work out.
I love it when you see a team pick an unusual lineup and it just ends up working. So great stuff. I mean, to be fair though, Virtus.Pro walked straight into it. I mean, really, it was. I hate to use the analogy, but fly to poo, and they just went straight into the cap. They went for the IS-3 there. To be fair, the IS-3 did a great job. It stayed alive. It went forwards. It retracted back in enough time. You could see the two Balsics just peek around the corner, absolutely annihilate. I think it was Kusok, and then move on to the rest. I think everyone could see there's not much to analyze there. It was a simple overcommitment from Virtus.Pro. And, if you're really going to try and break this defensive lineup from PENTA, you've got to split the Balsics up. You can't all go charging in.
Normally, the idea is, as the attacking team, to force the defending team to push you like that, to push you across that northern cap by just sitting on the edge of it, like we thought Kusok was going to do. I'm like, he stopped. He might go for some side scrape here. No, he's just going to go in. Righto. Real overconfidence there, and they've definitely misjudged PENTA a little bit. Not looking at the lineup. Two Balsics firing together is just ridiculous amounts of damage, and they're fragile. They're not the strongest tanks here. You can see this is where Virtus.Pro was starting to think about their push to the north.
Yeah, I like this position from Killer Pit and Fluky. I mean, in my opinion, both these two players are, have had a few questionable performances. I mean, Killer Pit against Cancer Crew, one of the lowest damage dealers. As a guy who I said, as a player in PENTA, as a player in Wusa, an absolutely fantastic guy, and I hope he does improve his performance as we do head through the season. But here comes a push. Kusok going first, so clearly he's the one calling the tactic. And they just want to go for Messick. Message just like, okay, guys, I'm gonna reverse backwards. Right. I'm gonna take you all behind, and the Balsics just dispatch of the back of that IS-3 very nicely, very easily.
They just got to back up. They actually didn't take any damage there at all, so they were totally free to go for another push a little bit later on. That's gross. The amount of damage they're able to put out. You see here, they're reloaded now. Balsics come out. Oh, okay, yep. That's pretty rough, tough to deal with. But Virtus.Pro didn't do themselves any favors. They pushed into that. As you said, the Balsics they're vulnerable. It's a low traverse rate on the turret. They can be circled really easily, and next to zero armor on that thing. You've got to exploit that against them. You've got to see that in your overlay. You know what you're playing against when you load in. Virtus.Pro didn't seem to really care or respect it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think, if you're fighting against a Balsic on Himmelsdorf, armor penetration doesn't matter, because, you got the, AMX 5100, 264 penetration, IS-3, 265. So you've got this whole situation, 268 even from the AMX 5100. So I guess the thing I would be doing if I was Virtus.Pro is that I would be going into that situation maybe with HE loaded on the IS-3s. You can do so much damage in a split second that actually those Balsics come pretty vulnerable, and you've got a pretty good chance of penetrating as well that first shot. But still, you have the whole situation where the two Balsics played very well. They weren't overly eager to peek. They waited for the shots of the IS-3s. They waited for the distraction. Then they went in to avoid all the damage.
Melly, something a bit different, something we'd like to see, and what also is different is PENTA picking up around there. Not too bad at all.
Definitely not expected at this point. But a pretty interesting tweet reached me from the community. People, if you have something on your mind, use the hashtag WGLU, just as Dave did, and he said, "Oh, PENTA, so many stars, but not a team." Is that true? Is PENTA missing the synergy?
Well, to be honest, they've changed a bit De Kilzer was their caller. I wouldn't say he was a star player mechanically speaking, but he had really sound tactics, and he was a good motivator for his team. However, I did speak to Hacky when they were here, and we spoke a little about how things have now changed in the lineup. And he said, as good as De Kilzer was, sometimes he did cause some tensions in the team on an emotional or personal level. So they seem confident with what they have right now, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Ollie? Surely it takes some time to sort of recover to that point.
Yeah, the thing is, I think De Kilzer was a positive influence. I mean, I get why Hacky would say that, because, I mean, you know, a lot of the brunt of the kind of name calling, I guess you could call it, was towards Hacky from De Kilzer. But, you know, I think it speaks for itself. Last season, Penta were doing pretty well. They got themselves into the finals. This season, some shaky performances. I think they're 9th place right now.
Yeah, 7th.
And 7th place. So I think for Penta, they need more time. I think they have got a lot of good players and a lot of stars, but they seem to lack someone who's clearly going to give them the direction they need. Some of their questionable tank choices and their questionable tactics, but I can feel that they are on the verge of just cresting that kind of downward spiral and getting out of it and getting into some clean air.
Well, there you go. On that note, it's a chance for Penta to see if they can maybe crest a few more hills, maybe make a few milestones here. Starting with winning the round would be excellent for them, and Virtus.Pro are probably keen to clean this one out. Now, Penta, no more ball 6 for them, going back to the standard play style here with the 4 IS-3s and the 2 5100s. Yeah,
I think that's good. I mean, once you've tried an unusual lineup once, I think the second time is a little bit cheeky and really asking for a counter strat. So, you know, once you lose towards a tactic, you always think, okay, how could we beat that tactic? And often that discussion happens immediately in the minutes after a match. Of course, Penta realizes that, goes back to the standard lineup with the quadruple IS-3, double 5100, and Hacky playing the MX-12 ton. So here's the thing. Penta knows the 8 line's very important. They're setting up there. They're making sure it's covered. Hacky's in the middle to spot out. If Virtus.Pro's going to the western side, they have done that. And I think overall, Penta's just waiting for Virtus.Pro. They're patient. They have a good map awareness in general. As Karitz does dispatch of Hacky, and not a massive deal for them, but they have got the 250-100 safe, and I think that was the whole point. Hacky needed to go to the middle to make sure those 250-100s can't get in position.
This is interesting. 25100s now, as you said, are in position, and they're putting some shots towards Coca-Cola. Plenty of damage over towards him, and they'll be happy with this one. They've actually got him tracked down. That's it. Hit and run tactics. Autoloader 101. Pushing in with those 5100s, 100-meter cannons going nuts. They will get the kill and be able to back away here, but it seems like Virtus.Pro want to turn and give chase.
Beautiful little side shot from Bishop there. Very hard shot to make. Now, Penta need to keep those 5100s safe. Yes, they got one IS-3 down, but will they lose two 5100s?
Well, that's the question here. You can see Just Cause is going to be pushing across through the train line here. And he could be vulnerable to some of those IS-3s. No, they're not really in position. Killer Pit now trying to get a better spot. They might be able to get some crossfire here, but those 5100s don't have anything in the chamber as far as we can tell. The dead zone, yes, they're just trying to block. He's just going to hope he can block new multi-show, and Just Cause is going to go in there and get some response of his own, and he's perfectly positioned himself so that the rest of Penta can't assist here. They can't fire for risk of shooting the dead zone, but now he's reloaded. Now he might want a piece of Just Cause, and this could blow up in his face gel quite easily, but here come the shots. Now those IS-3s are in position, and look at those red traces coming down. They are watching Virtus.Pro try and get into position here. Bishop is super low here. The dead zone's still alive. Can he get the reload? He will be able to clean him up, and now he's out of ammo, and Just Cause is still around the corner, and he hadn't forgot about the dead zone.
I love the dead zone so much in this season so far. He's been an absolute beast. A really good positional play, knew how to stay alive, relied on his instincts, and now the IS-3s of Penta get in the game.
Breakneck forced to back away here as Rage Potato going to start to put some pressure on towards Breakneck. A good roll will clean him up, and it does. 4 tanks left for Virtus.Pro now. Kusok forced to back around the corner after taking a glancing blow, about 400 damage from the BL9 of an IS-3, and the dead zone still on reload. This is awkward. Just Cause will be able to catch in there. 5100s move faster forwards, and they do backwards. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
4 versus 4 situation. Now, Penta need to get themselves together. They haven't got any 5100s alive, but Povel had to shoot 2 shells there, so they know they got a little bit of damage mitigation. They need to get the focus fire. They need to get the focus.
He's in trouble right now. Povel's come up with a full shell of autoloaders. Well, 4. I tell a lie, but that should be enough to clean up this IS-3 now at any rate. It will. One more roll will take down Killer Pit, and that's crushing blow for Penta Sports. They still have 3 IS-3s on the field, so that is good. But 2 5100s are still up for Virtus.Pro. They are on reload, but Just Cause has just come off that one. I think he might have been firing here. So there's plenty of firepower left for both teams now, and you can see those IS-3s. They are looking for Kusok. They are trying to focus him down. And you see, I think it was Raging Potato got a cute little shot through those oil carts towards Kusok, but he's still healthy and he can back away. Now the focus shifts as well. Message gets onto Just Cause, and it's still a 3v3.
Unbelievable. I don't think Just Cause actually realized Message was off reload, because Message was just aiming in the wrong direction. I don't think Message realized he was off reload, as he was having a look at where Kusok was. Now, it's a 3 versus 3 situation. Povil has 5 seconds left on that reload, and of course, Kareet's chiming in from behind.
Kareet's a couple bounces here, nothing really connecting. Those IS-3s have decisively strong side armor. They often use it to get the side scrape on, but Povil, he's loaded now as well, but he's ready to unload just as quickly. Message will be the first man in his sights, and he will go down. Fluky is low, and so is Raging Potato. This could get ugly. Povil still has 3 shots. Kareet's can do so much work from the rear, and you can see right now, he's just trying to clear the way to get some cheeky little side shots. There's Kusok finding Fluky, and Raging Potato is all on his own. He will fall down quickly as well. A bit closer there in the end, but Penta Sports failing to execute on the defensive side as well. Virtus.Pro showing some good aggression there. We're starting to see more of that come out of the woodwork from them, and it secured them this win, 5-1.
Yeah, they got the game in the end, but I mean, if we look back at that last map, it showed their vulnerability on Himmelsdorf. I actually loved the way Penta played then. You know, they used a sacrifice, basically, Hacky in the middle of that MX-12T. They could spot what was going across from Virtus.Pro. They got their 2 5100s down the train tracks, and they managed to take down Coca-Cola in a matter of seconds. 2 mistakes, I think. First of all, you know, just taking too many shots. You know, they had plenty of time to retract, but they still received a shell from Bishop in the IS-3 who was retreating. And then, you know, they got the kill, but then it was a 1-for-1 exchange because the IS-3s of Penta weren't ready to defend those 2 5100s, which are on reload, which were retreating. So it was a 1-for-1 exchange. The dead zone was left on his own in that 49-second reload. And then you had Killer Pit left in the middle between... He could get shot because he was here. There was an open space between 2 houses here, an open space between 2 houses here, and an open road. I mean, he was in literally the worst position you could possibly be in. And again, you know, I think he's a man who needs to step up.
Let's have a look at the dead zone there as well. Someone we pointed out as a bit of a shining star for Penta in that game. This is that double 5100 push, and they managed to catch Coca-Cola by surprise. I think he gets tracked up here. That would explain why he's staying and trying to face fight 2 freaking autoloaders. He goes down, but now all those shots have been used up. Well, New Multi has 3, I tell a lie, but here's a response as well.
But this is stupid. You know, of course, you know, you don't want to backpedal, but backpedal to the point where you can still not get shot around the corner. Backpedal like 2 meters and then turn. And you'll avoid that shell. But maybe they realized that maybe Just Cause would be in a good position to flank around if they didn't do that. But you can see the setup from Penta up north. Their IS-3s are not ready to receive.
They could have done so much work.
They're ready to shoot the tanks to come across the middle. But Virtus.Pro just, you know, they're like a moth to a light. They just go straight for those 2 5100s. Just Cause have a little bit of a field day on those reloads. And the dead zone and the New Multi show some bad coordination there. I think they could have stayed alive. New Multi show going too far forwards, and Just Cause just mops them up very easily. So again, I think Penta had everything correct in a lot of situations, but just, you know, a couple of mistakes and it costs you versus these guys.
And those 3 shots you saw coming out from the IS-3s that were finally in position actually didn't do any damage.
It did a little bit of damage, I think.
Those 3 coming through, it wasn't a lot though. Considering they should be doing about 1,200.
Yeah.
You know, like we see the health bar barely change.
And maybe also the dead zone, I think he either misses or bounces through a car, which means that that tank just lives for another revolution of the autoload. It also means you lose shells. But I think as well, you got to remember, in those situations, you want an autoloader tank left with a decent amount of shells. I'm talking about 3, 4, 5, 6. Virtus.Pro had that, whilst Penta only had IS-3s left, which means if you have an MX-5100 with a few shells left, you can go into a situation where you can take down one of those IS-3s with only taking 390 damage, and that's exactly what Virtus.Pro had, and they knew how to use it.
It's really well played from Virtus.Pro, and that one just came down to experience and just keeping your composure in those tight situations there. Melly, 5-1 was the final score. The votes were coming in thick and fast. A lot of people thought it would be closer. That wasn't ultimately the case, but I mean, we've seen Penta go up and down. We've seen Virtus.Pro still be fairly solid. Are you really surprised by this result personally?
Not really. I mean, they had to stomp up after the last how to say, situation they encountered. And yes, it was more than clear that Virtus.Pro will definitely show what they're made of this Playday, because, I mean, they got beaten, and they have to show that they're still one of the best teams in the league, and they clearly did that, much to the loss of poor PENTA. And yes, people at home, 86% for Virtus.Pro, and as said, much closer predictions than actually happened. 5-1 wasn't guessed that much, but yeah, things can go wrong for PENTA in this case. And yeah, we also had some tweets. For example, Jonas said the double Borzig's working awesome, so people liked seeing like PENTA taking the initiative and bringing something fairly new, let's say it that way. And is the league missing innovation, maybe?
Well, I think the whole point of the map changes was that we see different tanks, and we are seeing different tanks. I think, you know, from the get-go, we saw the T21. We're seeing the 416 back in action since season 4.
FE304.
The FE304 as well. The British artillery. You know, we're seeing a few new tanks in the lineup. But here's the thing: we haven't seen many, you know, new lines in the game for a while. I think Wargaming made a lot of changes with the HD textures of the tanks, so we haven't had like an influx of tier 8 tanks which players can have a little test of and play with. But obviously my favourite was that Carnivore played by Team Supreme. That was
innovation,
a beast.
to say the very least.
It was great. And you know, Ron came up to me and said when he was over here for some shooting, he said, yeah, he really enjoyed that.
Absolutely, and I mean, we've seen new tanks getting used more often during the last couple match days.
Yeah.
So maybe teams have to adjust, players have to get used to their new options, and maybe dare to use them in official games. So people, if you have any questions left, head over to Twitter and tweet us using the hashtag WGLU, and of course follow us on Facebook to stay updated. And the next vote for the next matchup will be up soon.
That's right, of course. The next game is going to be Ding versus Utopia. Going to be a great match. I mean, Ding 1-3, Utopia 3-1. How can people get involved as well? We've said it a few times. People just joining, maybe they love Ding, they want to know how they can vote. How might they do that?
Okay, as said, head over to facebook.com/WGLEU and then the team vote button right above the timeline. Press that one, then you get forwarded to an app where you can choose your favorite team and also predict the exact scoreline in the text field below. Make sure to set a score for Team A on the left side, and you know how it goes, but I'll just say it again, because sometimes people mix it up and then they're sad, and we don't want you to be sad. So people, do it. Get over to our social media platforms, get involved, use the hashtag WGLU on Twitter as well to whatever, tweet us everything what's on your mind. We love reading from you.
Literally everything.
Everything. Even if it's all he's had on
It's not going to be very
maybe
much in
a
there, to be
polo
honest.
player. I don't know. We need to get in more sports.
Polo player.
You would actually look good on a horse, I
Are you
guess.
talking about like the standing polo or the horse polo?
The horse polo, of course.
I've only rode a pony on a beach before. I'm not great.
Jeez, that's kind
Well,
of
that's
magical.
something. That's
Yeah.
like every gold's dream. Nice that you at least achieved something.
Shame Ollie's the one on the horse, not a good-looking guy, but still close, right?
Brilliant.
Absolutely. So people, you know what to do. We will be back after a short break for the next match.